What's up, everybody? The Legend of W is back in Chrono Cross, the Radical Dreamers edition. So, currently in the Radical Dreamers storyline in the last video, the trio are exploring the mansion in search of the Frozen Flame and has been caught in some bizarre situations. So, if you haven't seen the last video, make sure to go ahead and check it out. Now, for those who are catching up with the story, of course, you know that the trio found the Frozen Flame, but it wasn't the Frozen Flame. So, but we did get something nice from the goblins, the Gob Squad. And well, I think it's the key in order to unlock the door next to that giant bearded statue. So, well, it's just a bearded head statue. So, we're gonna have to go back over there. All right, here we go. The hand-shaped plate. That's what we need to do. I took the hand-shaped metal plate we'd found. After taking another look at the runes, I was no closer to working out what they might mean. Here goes nothing. I stuck the plate into the mouth of Truth's marble mom. As soon as I did so, its eyes rolled upward. Wow. And the wall gave a light judder. A low rumbling sound came from the sculpture's mouth. This, indeed, is the ultimate truth of the universe. Did you hear something? Yeah. I watched the mouth of Truth in confusion. Its great marble tongue lolled out, almost like a snake. It coiled around the plate, seizing it, and pulling it deep inside. I'm kind of weirded out. What's going on? What's going on? Yeah, that's what I want to know. In a panic, I looked to Magil for answers. Seems this ineffable truth of the universe has left even the mouth of Truth tongue-tied. Magil answered in his usual deadpan manner. I think he might even have been trying to make a joke. Wow, that's unusual. Hang on. So that plate thingy revealed the truth of the universe? And you went and crammed it down Beardy's gullet? Do you realize how much we could have sold that for? Kid kicked the floor in frustration and snapped her fingers. Damn, okay. She's very angry. And then drains on all sides of the room suddenly opened wide. What happened? The red water formed eddies as it sank away. Helpless, the pteranodons were washed away with the current. Soon only trickles of water were left, slowly dripping away. Well, that's a stroke of luck, ain't it? Guess we won't be sleeping with the fishies tonight. Fishies. I said fishies. Fishes tonight, grinned Kid, looking at the empty pool. We crossed the drain room, making for the exit on the other side, and pressed on. All right, here we go. New territory, unexplored territory. We went through the atrium and continued down the corridor before finding ourselves at a fork in the road. The corridor stretched off to the left and right. Okay, let's start with the left then. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Okay. Bloody marvelous. Another bloody door with a bloody magic barrier on it. Wonder what's inside. Me sixth sense tells me it ain't treasure, Kid whispered back to us as she examined the door. I suspect that this is the Manor's dungeon, replied Magil, his eyes closed in concentration. I see. I can hear the sound of someone moaning in the darkness on the other side. Oh boy, that's scary. But there is nothing we can do, and thus it is of little concern to us now. Let us turn back. With no way of getting through the door, we retraced our steps down the corridor. Okay, so I guess we gotta go to the right side. After making our way down the dark corridor, we came to a branch in the path. The path to the right would take us back to the atrium with the fountain. The corridor also continued directly ahead, but the way was completely enshrouded in darkness. We continued straight on. We continued down the dark, dank corridor until some stairs leading downward finally came into view. We went down the stairs. Oh yeah. Slowly, we crept down the staircase, descending deeper into the shadows as we went. At the bottom, we found ourselves at another intersection. The dim, narrow passageway branched left and right. We took the right path. We followed the corridor for a while before coming across a small door. Just more doors. Get a whiff of that. Something smells good, whispered Kid, sniffing at the air. We went inside. Is it the kitchen? We opened the door. Blimey, this is a small kitchen. I knew it. Must be for the servants, commented Magil. I scanned our surroundings. A basin of washing dishes, cooking utensils, some food made ready for tomorrow, and a mouse trap. It looked like any other commoner's kitchen. Ugh. Kid walked over to a large pot filled with food and peered inside. Looks like tomorrow's lunch. Want to try some, Densetsu? I respectfully declined. Yeah, don't do that. I made my excuses as politely as I could. Kid clicked her tongue in disappointment. All right then, you want some mag? No. Ugh, fine. Well, if you're afraid to try it, I ain't touching it either, she said, turning her back on the pot. I mean, it could be a trap, come on. Suddenly, a little voice rang out. You there, the young man with the braid. Kid froze. Oi, who you calling a bloke? Kid barked angrily in the direction the voice was coming from. A mouse was looking up at us with eyes like saucers from the inside of a mousetrap hanging from the wall in a corner of the room. Oh, so it speaks. Oh, I am sorry. You're a young lady, I see. The mouse bowed its head in apology. Please, kind young lady, you must hear me out. Please, hear me out. The mouse put its paws together and stared pleadingly at Kid. I left the nest to find food for my mother, but as you can see, I managed to get myself caught in a trap. If you leave me here, I will surely be eaten by goblins. Kid eyed the little creature suspiciously. I beg of you, please, free me from this trap. My mother is sick, and she'll be terribly worried about what has become of me. The mouse was clearly begging for its life, but there was an odd little glint in its eye. Kid shrugged and sighed. Fine. Guess we can't just leave you to rot. Hold still. Let's get you out of here. Out of there. She lifted the trap down onto the floor and opened the door. The mouse bounded happily out from inside. The mouse gave a wicked chuckle. Oh man, Kid. You poor naive fool! Suddenly, its body began to balloon massively in size. That was not a good idea, Kid. You always mess up. Bugger me! A griffin! Wait! The enormous creature stared balefully down at us. Idiot humans! My mother is not sick, but yours will be when she sees what I've done to you. You dirty little swine. And after all I've done for you, Kid's face was red with anger. The griffin gave an almighty cry and leapt right at us. Its razor-sharp talons sliced through the air, raking down toward me. I ducked to dodge the attack. Caught off guard, I tried my best to dodge the attack. But the blow never came, as the griffin suddenly lost its balance and came crashing to the ground. That's weird. Oh, bother. I'm too hungry to even fight properly. What on earth? I breathed a sigh of relief, running a hand down my chest. Wow, this is weird. All right, little mouse. Now it's time for the real show to begin. Kid walked up to the griffin, cracking her knuckles. Please, kindly young lady, this is all a misunderstanding, a terrible misunderstanding. Panicking, the creature leapt to its feet. You can't kill me. I have useful information. If you let me go, I promise I'll let you tell you everything I know. Everything! Yeah? I know how much a promise from the likes of you is worth. Kid took another step forward toward the griffin, not skipping a beat. Rock! Please! Kid kept on coming. The griffin kept on shrinking away. Enough! Magil called. Enough! Magil called for Kid to stop. Let's hear it. Oh, thank you, kind sir. The griffin was beside itself with relief. I mean, who would have thought? Magil, damn. Spoil my fun, why don't you? Grumbled Kid, pouting as she turned away. Listen well, O merciful savior. Right, thrice. Left, twice. Right, twice. Should you find yourself trapped in one of Lynx's swirling snares, remember my words. Right thrice, so right 3 times, left twice, right twice. Okay, I gotta remember this. With that, the griffin returned to its mouse-like form and disappeared into a small hole in the wall. Trapped in Lynx's snares? Ha! As if I'd be thick enough to walk into one of his traps. Let's get out of here. We've wasted enough time already. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the kitchen. I mean, Kid, you have fallen for all the traps. Leaving the room behind us, we took a right turn down the corridor. We followed it for a while before coming to an intersection. The way to the left ended at a staircase going up. The corridor also continued directly ahead, but the way was completely enshrouded in darkness. We went No. We pressed on. We continued on down the corridor until it ended at a large door covered in scratches and other odd marks. What? Above the door was a wooden plate. It bore the legend, guard room, in elaborate calligraphy. Well, reckon this might be where to find the key to that door upstairs? No getting past that bloody magic barrier without it. Kid pressed on ear against the door and listened carefully. Doesn't sound like anyone's in there, she whispered. We went inside. Oh yeah. Kid opened the door. The room had seemed completely silent from the outside, and so we had thought it would be empty. But there inside was a lone goblin. It was sitting in a chair with a book in its hand. A light steam drifted from the teacup on the table in front of it, and with it, a delicate aroma. Okay. Is it a hostile? Okay. The goblin peered at us curiously over its spectacles. There was something different about this one. I could tell as much at a glance. Heavens! How rare is it to have guests? Heavens! How well spoken for a goblin. I could only feel dread and suspicion at the sight of him, nothing less. Sorry, mate, but we're not your guests. Cough up the key to the dungeon if you want to live. Kid slammed her knife into the table to illustrate her point, but the goblin didn't seem so much as flinch. Ah, you must be Kid. What a pleasure this is. I have always so wanted to meet you. Why, you're even more ravishing than the rumors would. Before the goblin could finish, Kid's knife flew through the air. With a quick flick of his wrist, the goblin caught the blade with the back of his book. Oh, a mere inch from his face. I see that your approach is as radical as the name of your merry band would suggest, the goblin said, pulling the knife free and handing it back to Kid. She took it without a word, but her gaze had changed. She was like a cat, cautiously studying its prey. And I was just getting to the good part too. Ah, well, I suppose I shall have to give it up on ever finishing it now. The goblin casually flung the book over his shoulder and into a nearby bin. Allow me to introduce myself. If I may, I am Grismeld, and I am the guard on watch. No need to stand, please, do take a seat. You're welcome to tea, of course. The goblin beckoned us to sit down. Did he mean to poison us? If I may, Magil calmly took a seat, ignoring the obvious suspicion in the air. I sat down next to Magil. But I decided to trust Magil's instincts and took a seat next to him. He had some kind of plan in mind. I was sure of it. Kid didn't look like she'd be pulling up a chair anytime soon. She was standing with her arms crossed, eyeing the goblin suspiciously. The goblin poured 3 cups of tea. Here you are. Without the slightest hint of hesitation, Magil took his teacup and lifted it to his lips. I was gonna say hips. He sipped, then placed the cup back in its saucer. Hilmialin tea, not a blend I expect to find here. What a pleasure it is to encounter a fellow connoisseur. Yes, it's a rare blend, and one mainly enjoyed by the noble classes. I couldn't believe the conversation I was hearing, but I also couldn't help wondering what this rare tea might taste like. My eyes rested on the cup that had been poured for me. I couldn't shake the fear that it might be poisoned, but I also couldn't ignore how delicious it smelled. Before I knew it, the cup was in my hands. This is great, I blurted out. I've never had such a delicious brew in my entire life. My aches and pains faded away. Wow! I glanced over at Kid, who was blowing manically at the liquid in her cup. I'd forgotten that she was paranoid about burning her mouth on things. Now that we're comfortable, let's get down to brass tacks, as they say. I do indeed have the key to the dungeon, as you summarized, but you will also be aware that I cannot simply give it away. I glanced over to Kid again. Typical. She wasn't listening to a word Grismeld was saying. She was still huffing and puffing at her tea. It seemed it would be up to me to respond. Here's our offer. Give us the key and you get to live. I suppose that means you want something in return. You'd like to know what I want? I want your heads. Grismeld's eyes glistened behind his spectacles. Oh, wait, I didn't read the rest! Or rather, I'm sure that's what my employer would have me say. But no, I have no such barbarous aspirations. Furthermore, I doubt I'd be a match for you. Really? I mean, he caught that knife, so I don't know. Grismeld chuckled as he said this. What I live for is the joy of conversation, which I fear my compatriots are ill-equipped to supply. Perhaps you might have 1 or 2 ripping yarns to share. Grinning, he added, I'm sure notorious thieves such as yourselves must have more than a few thrilling tales up your sleeves. So he wanted to hear a story. That seemed a more than fair price to pay for the key. I closed my eyes and thought, aha! I know just the story. How did it begin? One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. And then, she was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her sick mother's illness. She was out hunting for bugs. Okay, this one. First one. Then, she walked and walked, but the sunflower was nowhere to be found. The poor girl went without food for 3 days and 3 nights. Okay, this one. The fragments I remembered seemed about right. There was only one way the story could end. I took a breath and began my tale. One night, a young girl was walking alone in the forest. She was searching for a golden sunflower, the only way to cure her sick mother's illness. The poor girl went without food for 3 days and 3 nights. And then, in her moment of darkest despair, she saw a brilliant light. It was none other than the golden sunflower she sought. The young girl gratefully pocketed the sunflower seeds. These will surely save my mother, she thought. But it was all a dream. With a smile on her face, the girl drifted off and dreamed forevermore. That was beautiful, murmured Kid, wiping a tear from her eye. Wow, she loves those stories. Grismeld frowned. Not quite what I was expecting, and not the most riveting of tales, but I suppose it will do. The key, as promised. I took it from Grismeld's hand. Something didn't seem right, though. Was he really going to give it up so easily? And was it really alright to trust such a strange goblin? Grismeld seemed to notice my suspicion. He leaned back into his chair, looking at the ceiling. When I was a young tyro, a braver, stupider goblin, I once served General Viper, who was the lord of this manor until his betrayer by Lord Lynx. Despite my bruishness, Lady Riddle always saw something in me worthy of praise. Wait, Riddle? What's Lynx's adopted daughter got to do with anything? Oh, you didn't know? Riddle's real father was none other than General Viper himself. Okay. What? Lord Lynx spared Lady Riddle's life so as not to snuff out that of the frozen flame. As an uncanny stone, you see, has a life of its own and some kind of spiritual bond with Lady Riddle. If only there were some way that I could free milady from this matter. Alas, I alone am powerless to do any such thing. Of course, I would have no qualms if, say, you were to topple the usurper. Usurper. I assume you intend to slay the old beast, I mean. It was a strange inquiry to make so casually. Well, if it comes to it... I was more than a little taken aback by the directness of Grismeld's question. I never expected to find one of Lynx's own guards asking me something like that. Suddenly, I was shoved aside. Not if it comes to it. We're gonna kill him tonight. And kill him good. It was Kid, of course. And in exchange, I'll have some more of that tea to take with us. Kid held out her hand before Grismeld could offer an answer. I suppose I have a bag I can share. Grismeld shuffled awkwardly in his seat as he retrieved it. As ever, I was impressed at how Kid's uncompromising attitude and willingness to speak her mind seemed to always get her what she wanted. Bonzer, sit tight and leave the rest to us, mate. Stowing the bag in her pocket, Kid took the job. You can trust me. I'm a girl, owe me word. I'm a girl, owe me word. Okay. That might have been the biggest lie she'd ever told. Right, let's get moving. She made for the door with a spring in her step. We left the room, and Grismeld behind. We continued down the corridor, eventually reaching an old, rather sturdy-looking door. Which is what we're gonna open. Right, the key we got from the creepy old goblin should do the trick. Kid slipped the key into the lock. The heavy door groaned slightly as it slowly swung open. That's creepy. Clammy air rose up around our feet, as if crawling blindly through the darkness. This didn't seem like the kind of place anyone in their right mind could visit voluntarily. What the... We pushed the heavy iron door the rest of the way open and stepped into the darkness. There was a row of cells, all locked behind iron bars. 1, 2. Oh, Gulliver, Melkid, Zoranda, forgive me. Please, please, forgive me. Oh, Gulliver, Melkid, Zoranda, forgive me. Please, Please forgive me. We heard a voice from the third cell, whimpering and crying pathetically. I strained my eyes to look inside. Faintly in the darkness, I could see something that looked like a man sitting on the floor. So this was the source of the voice. Oi, you alright, mate? Kid called out to the figure. Forgive me. It's all my fault. It's my fault. The Dragoons never deserved this. General, Lady Riddle. Oh, forgive me. I beg of you. The old man didn't seem to respond to us at all. He only sat facing the wall, begging forgiveness for who knew what. Hello? Can you hear me? Asked the kid, trying again. There'll be no getting through to him. His real self will have long since retreated inside the shell he has created, said Majel, cutting her off. Shell? What do you mean? I asked. He has built a shell around the core of his psyche in order to shield himself from the truth. He is running from something terrible. He has seen something, or been through something, or has done something. And so, he has created his own world on the inside as a final refuge, the outside world lost to him forevermore. I looked at Majel in surprise. I had detected a hint of unspoken sadness in his words. And for some reason, he was looking at Kid, watching over her as she stared at the man in the cell. Seeming to notice my gaze, Majel turned back to face me, assuming his usual emotionless expression once more. We live in a world of sorrow and foolishness. It's only inevitable that some would try to escape it. But despite his hard words, his eyes retained a certain softness, his steady gaze giving way to a gentle light. Do you understand? I think so. I gave a slightly evasive answer. You seem confused. I don't blame you. You'll come to understand eventually. Majel looked at me and Kid. What was all that about? I wondered. We're not gonna get much out of him. He's miles away. Let's just leave him be and try someplace else. Kid made for the door of the dungeon. Wait, called Majel. We must find some way to get this man to speak. What for? I mean, he's speaking already, just none of it makes sense. What are you after? Some things he said piqued my curiosity. He mentioned the Dragoons and Riddle too. So, you said the Dragoons are ancient history, snapped Kid. Besides, how can we trust anything he says? He's clearly gone off his rocker. She had a point. The old man had long since cut his ties to the real world. What did Majel expect him to say? Without missing a beat, Majel replied, we simply have to bring him back to reality. And how are we going to do that? You want me to do a little dance for him or something? See if that gets his motor going? Please don't. No, please don't do that. The words were out of my mouth before I could stop them. What are you saying? Her eyes narrowed threateningly. You don't think anyone would want to see me dance, is that it? What? No, I... Completely the opposite. Actually, ignore me. Nah, this should be good. Enlighten me, why don't you? He's right. It won't work. And just like that, Kid's fist was flying toward Majel's face instead of mine. He dodged the blow with ease and carried on as if nothing had happened. We must break through the shell he has created and drag him back to the real world. And in order to do that, we will need some kind of key, something that will reach him even through the barrier he has erected. Yeah? And where are we gonna find this key? Asked Kid suspiciously. I don't know, came Magil's simple reply. But there is something in this manor who can tell us. You don't mean... You're not talking about Riddle, are you? I am, Magil replied with a nod. Alright, fine. Don't know what the heck you expect her to tell us, though. Kid turned on her heel and made for the door. We left the gibbering old man in the dungeon alone with his sorrow. Damn, so we gotta go back to Riddle's room? I followed Kid and Magic back into the corridor. We arrived back to the atrium. An exit leading to Lynx's and Riddle's room gaped ominously from across the cavernous place. We continued on. We found ourselves in a tidy, welcoming room. The knickknacks and curios dotted around the place seemed to be well loved. The stately desk and the cozy-looking bed nearby, meanwhile, suggested the room's occupant was no stranger to luxury. Though the room was richly furnished, somehow it still felt awfully lonely. Is someone there? Came the voice of a young woman. We shrank into the shadows. Oh, there she is. The woman appeared from deeper within the room. She was lightly made up and had a gentle, unthreatening air about her. It was Lynx's daughter. Strange. I'm sure I heard someone. I was at a loss as to what to do for a moment, but before I'd had time to do much more than hold my breath, Kid had already darted over. Oh, hello! And thrust her knife out, stopping the blade only a hair's breadth from the woman's neck. What the? Where's the frozen flame? Answer me! Her voice came out in a harsh growl. I rushed in to hold Kid back before she hurt the poor woman. Kid, do we really have to do it this way? Shut your trap, Densetsu! Riddle couldn't help but giggle as she watched us bickering. Why? What are you laughing at? Kid shot Riddle a harsh look. It's just, you don't seem like thieves at all. You want me to cut you, girl? I'd be surprised if that knife could cut anything. For a moment, I felt faint, imagining Riddle on the floor covered in blood. But then, clang! Kid had thrown her knife to the floor, and I saw that it was only a letter opener. Didn't think you noticed. Whatever. I'm not here to mess around killing the likes of you anyway. I have no desire for bloodshed either, said Riddle, in a voice that was almost a whisper. I'm not your enemy. In fact, I want to help you. There wasn't a hint of hesitation or deception in her voice. Let me guess, you're trapped in this manner too? Riddle only lowered her eyes sadly in response to Kid's question. The frozen flame should never have been allowed to fall into Lynx's hands. Riddle spoke quietly, but deep emotion clearly underpinned her words. The flame was once the property of an ancient kingdom to the north, who kept it for generations. It was said to have the uncanny power to guide people and change history itself. After the kingdom fell, the flame changed hands countless times, until eventually it came into my father's possession. That was before I was born. Sometime later, Lynx became aware of the flame's true value and approached my father under false pretenses of friendship. Not a soul suspected what his true intentions were. And then, on that horrible day, He destroyed everything. He killed everything. Riddle shook her head, then buried her face in her hands. I don't care about the frozen flame. I don't care about that stupid accursed stone. It means nothing to me. I just want to take it away from Lynx and smash it into pieces right in front of him. And only we can make that happen. Riddle looked up with surprise as Magil spoke. No one else in the world can seize that jewel from Lynx. Riddle stared speechlessly. I can't even say it right. And then, in a low voice, she whispered, "What can I do to help you?" There's a survivor of the Acacia Dragoons in the dungeon who we want to help. And if we're to help him, we need your help, said Magil, taking a step forward. What? That man is a traitor! It's because of him that my father, that Zoranda. Please, it's the only way. Riddle turned her back to us and hung her head low. Damn. The Chamber of Death. There might be something to bring him back to his senses there. The Chamber of Death. After all, it was there that he chose to abandon his pride, his life. I assumed the Chamber of Death must be the cell with the trap ceiling. Riddle nodded. Oh, that place, okay. Yeah, that's gonna be a problem, started Kid. That thing damn near killed us the last time. You will need to take the Enlancer with you. It is a sacred sword said to have been forged by an ancient sage, and a sister blade to the crimson, cursed Masamune. The timeless blessings of the Enlancer will surely keep you safe from the Chamber of Death's wickedness. It used to be such a sight to see it in the hands of Zoranda. It danced like the wind, shone like the stars, and struck like lightning. Lost again in memories of fonder times, Riddle once more bowed her head. Forgive me, I have a little more to tell you. You've told us more than enough. We'll take our leave now, said Magil, turning and making for the door. I wish I had the strength to change things like you do, whispered Riddle, biting her lip. Kid hesitated for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. It ain't about strength, it's about having a purpose, something to fight for. I will be praying for you. Kid shot Riddle a look over her shoulder. Great, maybe you could cross your fingers too. We left the room. The room was completely silent and there was no sign of life. There it is, our ticket to not getting turned into mincemeat. The ancient sword was right where Kid had left it after pulling it out from the pile of junk. She ran over to where it lay. I just remembered that the sword was in the clock tower room. Looking down at the sword, Magil muttered, two ancient blades, the sacred Einlanzer and the cursed Masamune. What are you on about, Mag? You know something about this Master Mune? Magil said nothing. Well, it seems to mean something to you. It does. Something to do with old friends I don't know about? Not exactly. An enemy then? Not exactly. You're being weird, Mag. Well, whatever. Oi, numbnuts, grab this thing for me, will ya? I was still standing by the doorway when Kid called over to me. Who, me? Yeah, you. Or were you gonna make me lug the bloody thing around the place? I'm just a scrawny little girl, ain't I? Call yourself a gentleman? A scrawny little... in whose word, Dark Dreams, was Kid only a scrawny little girl? I wondered. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by a spinning kick to the chops. Ah! My body flipped over in the air as sparks flew behind my eyes. What the hell was that for? Kid only humped and looked away. Magil also turned away. I was thoroughly left out in the cold. Pick up the damn sword, Densetsu. We ain't got all night. You gods, she was a nightmare. Sometimes I wonder why you even bother coming along on these little jaunts. Dazed, I stumbled to my feet and sheepishly picked up the sword. Sheepishly. But what we were even supposed to do with this tarnished old relic? What? Whoa! I nearly fell over that thing. I nearly fell over. That thing was heavy. Good boy. Right off to the chamber of death. Eyes on the prize, lads. Dragging the sword behind me with one hand and clenching my throb head with the other, I followed Kid out of the room toward a place where it sounded like certain doom awaited. Oh boy, here we go. Well, this place is just as creepy as I remember. Lovely, grumbled Kid. She was looking at the stains on the wall. The ceiling had been pulled back up, but that was no reason to believe it might not come grinding down again at any moment. Bearing in mind what Riddle had told us the room was called, it definitely wasn't somewhere we wanted to linger. Quickly, hissed Magil before crouching down and examining the ground for clues. Kid and I crouched down too. What were we even looking for, though? What could the old man have left in this room that would help us bring him back to reality? The flagstones of the floor were smeared with a black, gooey substance, which gave off an odd, rotten aroma. I shook my head, trying to drive an uncomfortable thought from my mind. Kid saw me, and clearly wasn't doing much better herself. She slowly turned, positioning herself so that she was facing away from the stains on the wall. There was no point in thinking like that. I just had to try. But then... The door slammed shut, and the gears ground into life. Here we bloody go again! We have to stop it. If we don't deal with the trap, we'll never find what we're looking for. Okay, we gotta hurry up. Okay, yeah, I know. This is a death room. True. Very, very dangerous. The ceiling sank lower and lower. We ducked our heads, desperately trying to avoid the blades that jutted out from the bottom. Kid looked to me and screamed, "The sword! Use the Einlanzer!" What? How do you use the sword? I plunged the sword to the ceiling? Alright, let's see if this legendary sword can smash through the ceiling. I jabbed the Einlanzer upward with all my might. Clang! It pinged hard off the countless blades, flashing down from above, throwing me to the floor. Ow! My hands numbed from the shock. I haltingly regained my grip on the tilt and forced myself back to my feet. I plunged to the ground. Oh, what am I going to do? Densetsu! Kid's shriek ran in my ears, and then... Shunk! The edge of one of the descending blades sliced into my forehead. Ooh, there was no time. What are we going to do? Put it in the ground. There! I drove the sword into the floor with all my might. Damn, I took some damage. That's not good. A shock ran through the room. Beams of light scattered from the blade, covering the floor and walls, and then racing upward. The ceiling gave an almighty judder, then stopped. We made it. I sank to the floor helplessly, my heart racing. That's scary. Hey, what's that? Kid was pointing at part of the wall. It was where we'd seen the message written in blood. Guess we found what we were looking for. Part of the wall had collapsed, revealing a cavity behind what had looked like a piece of solid stone. Inside, I could see something glinting faintly in the darkness. Kid reached with her fingertips, carefully extracting whatever it was from within. It was a slender ring with a delicately engraved design that had looked like overlapping ferns. The ring was adorned with several small rubies in a pattern that resembled a bunch of grapes. The crest of Acacia. This must be an Acacian signet. Kid put the ring on her middle finger, where it sat uneasily. It didn't seem to be her size. The rubies gave off an eerie glint. Right, let's not spend any more time in here than we have to. We managed to foil the trap and retrieve the Acacian signet. I left the Einlanzer where it stood, and we exited the room. Okay, survived that. With Kid in the lead, we'd headed downstairs. Having retrieved the Acacian signet, we returned to the old man's cell. As soon as we got there, Magil took a step forward and grabbed onto the bars. They creaked and groaned as he heaved at them, gritting his teeth as he summoned every ounce of his might. Slowly, they bowed apart. He stepped into the cell through the gap, and Kid and I followed. The old man was exactly as we had left him, staring into space and muttering meaningless words. Kid walked over to him and crouched down. She grabbed the him by the collar and yelled at him, "Wakey, wakey, Granddad! We've got a few questions for you. Here, get an eyeful of this. Ring, any bells? Kid waved the Acacian signet in his face, making him roughly all the while, shaking him roughly all the while. The old man's head lolled as he limply allowed himself to be manholded. I stepped between them and tried to stop her. I tried to get between Kid and the old man. She glared at me. You're in the way, Densetsu. We're here for answers, remember? But if you really want to help him, you can't chicken out now. But look at him. There's no helping him anymore, surely? This is all ended for him long ago. I would not be so certain. This is not over. It still means something. He has simply decided to pretend not to see. Yeah, but It's not over, you say? Struck by the man's sudden interruption, we all turned to look at him. Okay. A faint glimmer of light returned to his once vacant eyes. That's right. None of this is over until we make Lynx pay. His eyes began to cloud once more. So my former allies have finally come for me. I am to blame. It is because of my indiscretion that the frozen flame was stolen, and that of all the Acacian dragoons. Only I remain here in the manor. But now all is well, for you have returned. Oh, Melkid, Zoranda, where have you been all this time? Did you all return to Lake Stoik? Never mind all that, Granddad. Where's the frozen flame? Give us a clue. Anything. Come on, out with it. I couldn't decide if Kid sounded more annoyed or more desperate. The frozen flame? The old man looked momentarily confused, and then a wan smile crossed his face. My word, Lady Riddle! It has been far too long since last I had the pleasure. Why, you need only turn the third candlestick from the left as you enter the main hall. That will open the underground vault, as you know. Okay, wait a minute. So, turn the third candlestick from the left. Third candlestick on the left and when we enter the main hall. Got it. Kid wrapped her arms around the old man and held him tight. And then, in a trembling voice, she whispered, I'm sorry. I promise we'll get it back. Ah! The man recoiled in horror and then began to sob once more. I am to blame. It is all my fault. Forgive me. Forgive me. Look, if you want to get out of here, now's your chance. But it was no use. He was too busy cowering and wailing to hear me. We're done here, Densetsu. We can't help him, and there's things we need to be doing. Thank you. Oh, thank you, I whispered to the old man, before following Kid and Magil out of the dungeon. Dozens of candles provided a dim flickering light, sending the corners of the room dancing in and out of shadow. The great hall was filled with a heavy silence, a silence unbroken save for the tickering of a large clock that slowly counted the passage of time, as if waiting for something. Several portraits glared down at us with cold eyes. We moved through the feeble glow of the candles. Third candlestick from the left, whispered Kid. 1, 2, 3. There. She reached out towards it. I held my breath as I watched. Say your prayers, Lynx. We're coming for you. Kid turned the candlestick. The room trembled with a sudden rhythmic rumbling sound, as if a massive gear was turning. What's that? For a moment, I felt a strange sensation, as if I was floating. Did you feel that? I started to stagger. The entire room seems to be moving downward, came the reply from Magil. I couldn't quite believe it, but I also couldn't deny the feeling of downward motion. The main hall was sinking into the earth. And then, another rumble. The room's descent rapidly accelerated. A cold sweat dripped from my back, my heart filled with a mixture of fear and anticipation. What was waiting for us down there? The frozen flame, our prize at the end of this little adventure. But what was it really? Would it live up to our expectations? I tightened my fists, which were slick with sweat. What were Kid and Magil thinking? The room remained veiled in silence. Boy, let's see what happens. As if in response to my thoughts, a quiet voice came from next to me. Sometimes It was Kid. I looked over to see her standing stiffly, staring forward with her hands clenched into fists. Sometimes I feel like I'm stuck in a losing battle, a fight I'll never win, no matter what I do. It was a side of her I'd never witnessed before. Even from this angle, I could see fear and doubt flickering across her face. I felt a tender sting in my heart. What are you fighting? What are you fighting against? Good question. Fate, maybe? Life, even? Not sure I can put me finger on it exactly. It ain't Lynx. I mean, sure, I'm here to fight him, but that's different. It ain't clear cut like that. I feel like there's another me inside me. One that's just sitting there, looking out at how empty and pointless everything I do is. That's the best way I can describe it, anyhow. Listen to me. Load of bloody nonsense, eh? She smiled ruefully. I didn't know exactly what she meant, but I felt like I knew broadly what she was getting at. She may have talked tough, but underneath it all, she felt fear and uncertainty, just like the rest of us. I mean, that was no great revelation in and of itself, but hearing her say it out loud gave me a strange sense of relief. I stole another sidelong glance at her. Her expression was different, more mature, somehow. Sorry, mate. You didn't need to hear that. Not exactly me trademark brand of carefree banter, eh? She stuck out her tongue. Normal service had been resumed. Or so it seemed for a second. Thanks, Densetsu. You and you, Mag, she said, suddenly serious again. Couldn't make it this far without you both. Listen, if we don't, after this I mean, if we don't get another chance to, you know what? Forget it. She closed her eyes and forced a smile. I wasn't sure how to respond. So true to form, I just stared at her some more. I could have sworn I caught a flicker of a grin across Magil's face, too. He was standing just at the edge of my field of vision, arms crossed and eyes closed. But maybe it was just my imagination. I don't think so. A contemplative silence descended as the hall continued its journey down into the bowels of the manor. A crash split the silence, as if we collided with something. A loud metallic scraping filled the air. The room rocked and finally came to a halt. Oh boy, looks like the end of the line. All change. Here we go. The swelling grandeur of the organ suddenly filled the air. No one had so much as touched it, and yet the keys and the pedals were moving by themselves. The melody it played was both unsettling and sad. Funeral tune, is it? Wait to greet your guests! Kid took a long stride forward, then turned to face me and Magil. Come on, let's go! Magil and I gently nodded our assent. Kid grinned, then turned back to the door. I'm coming for you, Lynx! This is the end for you! And with that, she led us from the hall. Oh boy, it's about to go down. We counted down a long, dark corridor, the walls slick with condensation. The air was thick and heavy, as though ripe with the stench of death. We were really getting close to Lynx's hidden vault at last? And was there any turning back now, for any of us? There was something strange about Kid that night. Magil didn't seem to be his usual self either. To begin with, it was vanishingly rare for him to speak so much, let alone to show any kind of emotion. What happened to make them change like that? Unable to take the silence anymore, I decided to speak. I had to ask the question that had been on my mind all this time. What is the frozen flame? Is the frozen flame really just the jewel? There was only silence in return. And then, when it seemed like no one would reply at all, Magil spoke. His low voice echoed in the corridor. It was a sacred stone that cures all ills, heals all wounds, and grants eternal life. Or so some still believe. In truth, it is part of a tremendous rock that fell from the skies long, long ago. That rock was the source of a hitherto unknown power with which mankind's hidden potential was unlocked. You could say that it was humanity's dreams made manifest. But it is not always good to have one's dreams come true. Many were bewitched by that great power. Some were led astray by it. It even led to a kingdom's ruin. A kingdom once prosperous, yet now little more than fragments and dust, its name lost to history. For a moment, I thought I heard a hint of pain and sadness in Magil's voice, but maybe it was just my nerves. Wait, how do you know all this, Magil? He said nothing. He only stared at me with his piercing dark eyes, and then continued onward in silence. For a while, only the sound of footsteps echoed in the corridor, and then Kid gave a doubtful humph. Look, I don't know if all that stuff about the frozen flame is true or not. It's neither here nor there to me. She raised a fist. We're here to settle the score with Lynx by nicking the thing. That's all I know, and that's all I want to know. What had Lynx seen in the frozen flame? Why had it been worth risking so much for? We trudged on down the dark passageway, each of us alone with our thoughts. Concentrating in my footsteps lessened the burden of my worries somewhat, and I felt a renewed vigor to a degree. Suddenly, Magil stopped in his tracks. Wait! Uh-oh. Huh? Kid turned around, puzzled. Just then, a powerful light surged across the floor, and the ring-shaped sigil appeared. Oh my god. Damn it! A blood circle! Kid and Magil were at least quick enough to try and jump clear, but they weren't quick enough. The three of us were trapped in a circle of blinding light. This is bad. Whoa. Oh boy. The sigil rotated left and right with us at the center, cutting off all routes of escape. Gah! We're trapped! We're trapped indeed. A wall of heat and wind blew up around us, and swirling lines and spirals of light assailed us wherever we turned. Don't let the light mesmerize you. Cover your eyes, shouted Magil, raising a hand over his mask. Okay. Turn with the light, not against it. There has to be a way out. What? I barely even understand what's going on. Kid's elbow brushed against the wall of light surrounding us, sending sparks flying. Be careful. Merely to touch it is more than enough to harm you. Stay well back. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. I turned left 3 times. Turned 3 steps to the left. Ah! Oh, that wasn't it? I couldn't find a way through and plunged helplessly to the swirling vortex of light. That was not good, huh? And amid that brilliant sea of brightness, I chanced upon the face of an angel, her eyes filled with sorrow. Densetsu! And so I died, and damn it. Okay, I turned right 3 times. Boom. 3 steps to the right. There, I see it. That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid, Magil, this way. Alright, we managed to get through the barrier unscathed. But we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light swirling with a great wind in front of us. Okay, I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. Turn left twice. 2 steps to the left. There, I see it. That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid, Magil, this way! Alright, good. We managed to get through the barrier unscathed. But we weren't out of the woods yet. There was still another wall of light swirling with a great wind in front of us. I slowly turned my body to follow the movements of the ring of light, looking for a gap to escape through. I turned right twice. 2 steps to the right. There, I see it! That's our way through. I found a gap in the wall of light and carefully walked through it. Kid, Magil, this way! Alright, we did it. That should be it. Based off of what that little griffin, mouse, whatever, said. We made it. Suddenly, My body felt light, and I staggered 2 or 3 steps forward. We were back in the deserted passageway we'd been walking down before the blood circle had appeared. The sigil had vanished from the floor, and everything was silent, as if nothing had ever been amiss. And then I looked up. Oh. Looks like we finally made it, boys. Kid strolled up to the door with a wicked grin on her face. The true frozen flame awaits. Magil's eyes gave a glint from behind his mask, like glass catching moonlight in the darkness of night. Let's go. Kid reached for the handle. Oh my god, here we go. Can I save the game? So this is the place, huh? Kid narrowed her eyes, straining to see our surroundings in the darkness. Oh, a vast pitch-black expanse surrounded us. Whichever way we looked, it was as if we'd entered an impossibly vast cave. Whoa. We were in a place forgotten by time, unknown to the world, hidden deep within the bowels of night. A gentle crimson light hovered in the darkness, the frozen flame. Oh boy. All right, now it's ours. The light of the flame ebbed and waned gently, as if responding to Kid's voice. What the heck is this place? There's mountains of bloody rubble everywhere. Magil took a step forward into the room and said in a whisper that was almost a groan, "No, it can't be." Ah, but it is. The ruins of the lost kingdom of mages. The voice drifted down through the darkness from above. Kid looked up in shock. Uh-oh. Lynx! I'll kick your flea-bitten arse so hard, you'll kiss the moon! Kid pulled her knife from her belt and threw it as hard as she could. It fell to the floor with a clang, as if knocked out of the air by some unseen hand. Still, the same impetuous child as ever, I see. That's no way to greet an old friend. Smarmy bastard! Kid gritted her teeth with rage. And you, Shadow Dweller, I'll have none of your tricks this time. You must think me a fool if you believe I'll fall for that again. Magil, who had been quietly slipping into the darkness that surrounded us, stopped dead in his tracks. So this was the infamous Lynx. Oh boy. Oh boy. Look at his face. The lord of this deadly manor. The man who had murdered the closest thing Kid had to family. Who had assassinated General Viper and eradicated the Order of the Acacia Dragoons. A pleasure as always, my dear Kid. And I must say, you followed the trail of breadcrumbs I laid for you admirably closely, my greedy little sneak thief. What the bloody? She stepped forward, bristling. Lynx narrowed his eyes as his lips twisted into a snarl. You know what I want, Kid? Give me the stone you carry. The stone? Did Kid have some kind of jewel I didn't know about? Peh! Don't know what you're talking about, mate. She just about managed to recover her composure, narrowing her eyes scornfully at her old foe. Spare me the act, child. I know that you have it. I know she gave it to you. Hand over the time egg. Now. The what? Whatever it was, I'd never heard of it. Have you heard of it? Have you heard of it? You're dreaming if you think I'll give it to you the likes of you. Kid shot back. It's all I have left of her. I'll never let go of it. Not for anyone. And definitely not for you. I'll tell you what's gonna happen. you bastard. First, I'm gonna take the frozen flame, and then I'm gonna ram it down your throat. Incorrigible young fool. I was hoping this might be a civilized exchange. Alas, it seems my words will only fall on deaf ears, and you are determined to repeat your past errors. Lynx moved his hand to the grip of the ornate golden saber that hung from his belt. Last time, I showed you mercy and let you leave with your life. That was a mistake, one which I mean to correct. Densetsu, Magil, stay back. Stay back, huh? Kid took a step forward, glaring at Lynx, her gaze unflinching. This ends here now. You'll pay for what you've done. You'll pay for what you did to Luca! Oh man, Luca. Poor Luca. With a scream, Kid leapt into the air like a bird taking flight. Her foot lashed out in a synthing kick aimed right at the side of Lynx's head. But there was no contact. Where Lynx had been mere moments before, now there was only empty space. Kid landed and immediately launched herself back into the air, putting the full force of her momentum into another kick. This time, Lynx leaned back, letting Kid's foot swing past only a hair's breadth from his nose. And then it was Lynx's turn. He lashed out with his saber, carving an arc through the air in front of him. Kid was ready for him, however, and had already jumped back to a safe distance. The two glared at each other from mere footsteps apart. At least you had the decency to prepare a little better than last time, Lynx purred. A red line appeared on Kid's cheek, slowly coalescing into a drop of blood. Kid! In a flash, she launched herself into yet another attack. Lynch dodged to the side, then made to strike her with the hilt of his saber. Kid moved awkwardly to avoid the attack, losing her footing, and then Lynx was on her like a bird of prey before she could fully recover. There was a gasp and a cough as Lynx drove his knee into the pit of her stomach. Kid collapsed. A steady stream of red dripped from her lips. Will that be all, girl? Lynx gave Kid a merciless kick to the side, sending her flying. She landed on a pile of rubble, her body rolling until she hit a large stone pillar, and there she lay, lifelessly still. Damn! Kid! Kid! I screamed her name as I charged toward Lynx. But Magil was there already. He flew through the darkness, a part of the shadows, before crashing down on Lynx like a bolt from the blue. Lynx jumped back, and countless threads of light flew from his fingertips toward Magil. With a droning hum, the threads of light surrounded Magil, crossing over one another. They spread to form a lattice of light that gave off a blinding glare and trapped Magil where he stood. Uh-oh. What is this? Magil staggered and groaned, attempting to shield his eyes with his hands. It is a simple enough spell, my shadowy friend, for those inclined to learn it, and one which, sadly for you, leaves no darkness in which to hide. Lynx leered at Magil with a venomous grin. You've been quite the thorn on my side. I'll let you live long enough to regret it. Magil struggled and groaned. I had to do something. Kid and Magil needed me. But what was I going to do? I challenged Lynx. I charged at Lynx. I screamed as I rushed toward Kid's nemesis. And then, in one fluid motion, he spun around to face me, lashing out with his saber. I tried my best to dodge the blow, but the blade sliced into my body. Oh boy, I'm dead. Damn it. Ah! I collapsed in a heap and rolled down onto the rubble. You aren't the first arrogant little street rat I've cut down, and you won't be the last. His claw-like fingers clamped around my throat. Oh god, okay, here we go. I couldn't breathe. Ugh. Tightening his grip, Lynx lifted me bodily until my feet were dangling in the air. I could feel his talons mercilessly digging deeper and deeper into my neck. Panic filled my mind. I couldn't speak. All I could do was make strange, strangled noises with my throat. What was that? And then I heard the crunching sound of my neck finally snapping. Oh god. And I'm dead. Am I dead? And then... Damn it. No. I gotta start over. That's terrible. Alright, I ran to Kid. Kid! I ran over to where she lay. She was flat out, still collapsed where she had fallen, and blood still ran from her mouth. Kid! Kid! Say something! I crouched down next to her, glancing at her face in a panic. She groaned, and then she began to stir, her face twisted with pain. Densetsu! It's okay, kid. I'm here. How touching. Although I would be more concerned about my own well-being if I were you, the voice came from behind me. It felt as if ice water had been poured down my neck. I jumped to my feet and turned around. Oh boy. Lynx was looking down at me with a cold, emotionless stare. Any friend of Kid's is certainly no friend of mine. Forgive me, but I cannot permit you to leave this place alive. Before I realized it, his hand had shot out toward me. His claw-like fingers clamped around my throat. I couldn't breathe. Tightening his grip, Lynx lifted my body. Oh god, am I dead again? I read this before. Panic filled my mind. Look, kid, see your friend, see him suffer. This is your doing. This is your hand around his neck. Kid's breathing was ragged, and blood still dripped from her lips. Opening an eye, she groggily raised her head, but she couldn't get up. She didn't have the strength. Densetsu, give me the time egg. Do you even know what it is? I suspect not. Think of it as a concentrated pocket of space. With the frozen flame and the time egg in hand, one can bend the fabric of time and rewrite the past. There are errors that I need to correct, mistakes in the past that must be set right. Lynx's narrow, emotionless eyes returns to my face. How long before he perishes? I wonder. I struggled to breathe, but could only make choking sounds. Kid screamed my name. Couldn't speak. All I could do was make strange, strangled noises with my throat. And I'm dead. Great. It was Magil. I had to go to Magil. Okay, I ran to Magil. This should work. I ran to Magil's side. Mag, are you okay? Leave me, you fool. You need to help Kid. He groaned and grimaced with pain, the web of light holding him mercilessly in place. Wait! I heard a scream from behind me. Go to her, Densetsu, now! Delay any longer and you will regret it forever. He looked at me, dead in the eye. Do not make the same mistake I once made. You must protect her. Okay, I gave him a silent nod and got back to my feet, then turned toward Lynx and Kid. I ran to Kid. I ran over to where she lay. She was flat out, still collapsed where she had fallen, and blood still ran from her mouth. Kid, say something! I crouched down next to her, glancing at her face in a panic. She groaned, and then she began to stir, her face twisted with pain. Densetsu, kind of the same text I read. It's okay, kid, I'm here. How touching. Although I would be more concerned about my own well-being if I were with you. The voice came from behind me. It felt as if ice had been poured down my neck. I jumped to my feet and turned around. Okay, so he grabs me by the neck. Lynx was looking down at me with a cold, emotionless stare. And any friend of kids is certainly no friend of mine. Forgive me, but I cannot permit you to leave this place alive. Before I realized it, his hand was shot out toward me. His claw-like fingers clamped around my throat. Yeah, same stuff. I couldn't breathe. Tightening his grip, Lynx lifted me bodily until my feet were dangling in the air. I could feel his talons mercilessly digging deeper and deeper into my neck. Panic filled my mind. Oh boy, look, kid. See your friend? See him suffer. This is your doing. This is your hand around his neck. Kid's breathing was ragged and blood still dripping from her lips. Opening her eyes, she goggly raised her head. But she couldn't get up. She didn't have the strength. Densetsu, give me the time egg. Do you even know what it is? I suspect not. Think of it as a concentrated pocket of space. With the frozen flame and the time egg in hand, one can bend the fabric of space and time and rewrite the past. There are errors that I need to correct, mistakes in the past that must be set right. Lynx's narrow, emotionless eyes return to my face. How long before he perishes? I wonder. I struggled to breathe, but could only make choking sounds. A kid screamed my name. Decide. Will you watch the boy die or relent? Does his life mean nothing to you? I can't! She balled her hands with fists and dropped her gaze. Wait, this is new. My vision started to fade. And then I heard her voice as she struggled to speak through the pain. I'm sorry, Densetsu, but I swore I'd sacrifice anything to stop Lynx. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. It was all I could do to force the words out past Lynx's icy grip. I was starting to black out. Was this really how it was going to end? Please, it's gonna be annoying to... I'm sorry, Densetsu. I'm so sorry. Kid sobs became more and more distant. I guess to her, the time egg was more precious, more irreplaceable. Kid. I died? Oh, never mind. Okay, I got paranoid. Wow. So that's what happened. I mean, but... Wait a minute. What? Credits? Why is it in Japanese? I guess they didn't want to do that. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. So my character died. Obviously, she said hell no. But what happened? Like, how did they manage to escape? You know? I'm curious. What happened? Fiend. Yeah. Yeah, Kid didn't really like Densetsu that much. Kid, le tesor interdit completed. And there are a lot of question marks. That means there are multiple endings, right? Alright, everybody, that is going to be it for the Radical Dreamers. Kid just did not like Densetsu at all. I mean, I understand. The choices that I've made were not good, and she was pretty mad at me throughout the adventure. So, I mean, she always mentioned, like, why did I bring you here? This and that. It was unfortunate, but I researched online, and she can potentially save your life based off of the choices you make. And I wish I would have made it to that point, but that's not happening. And I don't know if I want to go back through the story and, you know, go through that and check out the last piece of the first ending, because there are multiple endings from what I've researched. And I don't know. It's a nice game. I just kind of wish that, I mean, I know it's an old text-based adventure game, but I wish that there were features to make it easier to just go through the story and just make the choices rapidly, so that way you can reach the ending that you want to get. So It's a little tedious, but once again, I understand it's a very old game, so it does make sense that it would take a while. But anyways, that is going to be it for the Radical Dreamers. I'm just gonna go straight to Chrono Cross next, and I just cannot wait to replay that game. And as I mentioned before in the first video of the Radical Dreamers playthrough, I remember playing through Chrono Cross to a certain point in the game. I just don't remember exactly where. I would probably remember once I get to that point, once I experience it again. And I just stopped playing. I'm not sure whether I was playing a friend's copy of Chrono Cross or whether I rented the game, but for some reason I stopped playing. Something must have happened that I completely forgot, and I just didn't play the game. I've never owned Chrono Cross, so until now, of course. So it's gonna be really fun to go through Chrono Cross and just go through the entire adventure. So I'm really excited about that. But anyways, that is going to be it. So thank you so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, hit the bell notification so that way you know when I upload next time. And I'll see you later in the next video. Peace.